Hello YouTubers, you're watching Just Do It Yourself channel, and we have 2010 Cadillac Escalade truck, and we have leaking axle seal on the passenger side rear wheel. We'll get it replaced together with the axle and C-clip. So I have truck jacked up on two jack stands, and first thing that I will do, I will remove the diff cover in order to drain the fluid and let it drain while we work on the wheel. So those are 13 mil bolts. You potentially can remove the spare tire if you have better access to the top one. Not feeling like removing that wheel since I don't know when it came off last time. So I will just use 1/4-inch impact and use my ratchet to get the top one off. Right, so I will start with the top one so we're not getting any leaks just yet. I'm just using my air ratchet. So those are the bolts. There was some Loctite on them. We'll get them all off. So now when the top bolts are removed, I will probably leave this one in and this one, but we'll remove all of those, and I already put the oil catch pan underneath. We will get some fluid coming out pretty soon. Now we can get those a bit loose, not fully removed. Just like that. See oil starting to come out. This diff oil is quite thick, so it will take a moment for it to drain. That's why I want to get this cover off as soon as possible. So we'll let the majority come out with the 2 bolts in place. Then we'll just remove them and the rest will get off. So when you do this job, you need to know the size of the diff. This reindeer. This one, I believe, I'm pretty sure is 8.625 inch. And also it has 10 bolts on the cover. There are bigger diffs, and the parts are different for them, so you need to pay attention for that. So when you have your cover off, it's a good idea to check the magnet. So here's the magnet, and all this is just metal shaving. That's quite a bit, but we don't know when it was changed last time. What we're looking for here are bigger chunks, and doesn't feel like there are anything big, just really fine shavings. So now our truck is basically leveled, and we will be working on the right axle. So there is oil in that oil axle housing, So I will lower down the left hand side of the truck just to get a little bit of angle so the oil can come out from there into here and then into oil pan, so we get less oil dripping on our brakes. So now left side is significantly lower than the right side, so we get that flow from the wheel back to the diff. So here's one thing: when you remove your cover and when you remove your gasket, there's lots of rust and all the debris that you need to clean. And when you start cleaning, even when you remove your cover, there will be some dirt falling down and it will get on your rain gear. So in order to clean it and not to get too much crap inside, you need to cover it with something. Like I just use a rag, and when it's clean, obviously we'll need to go with the brake clean and wash everything inside so that dust, that sand does not do any damage to the gears, but at least covering a bit will prevent from most of the stuff getting on your inner pieces. Right, so we now need to remove the wheel. So we'll start with this cover. It was nice. To get the wheel off, I'm using 7/8 socket and 1/2-inch electrical impact. All the links to the parts and tools that you might need in the description to the video. So please check those out. It will help to keep this channel running. Next, what you want to do, you want to spread out the brake pads, or just go with the pry bar, grab the pad by the metal piece and just push it out a bit so it's not tight when we remove the caliper. To get the caliper bracket off, we need to remove one, and there's a second bolt. They are 18 mil. So now, when two caliper bolts are removed, we'll just pull off the brakes in one piece, and you need to have some sort of hook ready so you can hang it and just avoid resting it on a brake hose. Next, we need to pull the drum off. For that, you need to remove those two lock washers. We want to save them since we want to put them back. We'll just carefully unscrew them. You might not have them. They are just for drum installation purposes. So we'll do the same with this one. So now we should be good to pull that drum off, and just someone did a great job putting anti-seize on a hub. Guess who it was? Yeah, you guessed right, it was myself in a previous video when we replaced the brakes. It came off quite easily, so we don't need to struggle too much with the axle. So our axle is exposed, so we're trying to fix a few things. The first one is a leak, and the other one, the play. There's probably a 1/4 inch of play. So we will install new seal, new bearing, new axle, and new C-clip, and we'll see if that fixes it. Alright, so we are back under the vehicle. So you want to put your truck into the neutral gear, and spin your wheels until you get to see this bolt holding the pivot shaft over here. So it is 8mm bolt, and we will it's quite tight. We need to get it out of there. So small 1/4-inch ratchet will do the job. It was quite tight. It will be interesting to see if there's some thread blocker on it. That was a lot of torque for a bolt that size. So now my ratchet got stuck. I need to make a few turns in to remove the ratchet. And now see if I can get it with my hands. Oh, it is coming, but I will take wrench. Use the wrench to finish unbolting it. It's really tight in here, what is expected for the diff. So the bolt is out. Seems like there was some thread locker on it. Okay, so next we're gonna push this pivot shaft out. So now we'll use a wheel. Okay, the wheel, since the pivot shaft is out, the wheel will not turn the diff. Seems like we might need to use the ring gear. Now we just spin this. You can still hold the inner piece where we removed the pivot shaft, so we can see that C-clip, and I want to put it a little bit more pointing down. When we push the axle in, that C-clip might just fall off. Yes, we'll see. So if you look just over there, okay, so if you take a closer look over there, where I'm just pointing with the laser, there is that C-clip that's kind of hidden under the gear to the right. So when we push the axle in, it should get exposed and we should be able to remove it. So now we will push our axle in as much as we can. Alright, so I'll try to pull that C-clip with the magnet. Sometimes it requires two people. One is pushing the axle, one is pulling the C-clip. I'm working alone, so I'll try to figure out how we can get that out. Oh, it started to come, so I'm just helping myself with my foot on the wheel hub. Okay, so this is the C-clip. You can see it's grooved quite a bit, so that's probably why it was the play in the axle. Alright, so we should be able to pull the axle out. You can potentially go ahead, remove the bolt and get the parking brake out. I'll just put quite a bit of padding underneath, so if some fluid comes out, it doesn't get on the parking brake pad. Also, I put 18mm socket just in here, so now when I go with the pry bar, I have a good prying point. So now I'm just gonna try to get that axle out. Oh, it's coming out. So now it's loose. Now we can just probably pull it with our hands. Just like that. Okay, so we will now remove the seal. We will still keep this rag underneath just to avoid any oil coming out. This seal is sitting tight. Just need a little bit of more pressure. Just like that. And some fluid, so we will clean it before it gets out. Right. To get the bearing out, we will need bearing puller, like blind. I think it's called blind bearing puller. I'll show you how it works. I will leave a link in the description to this kit. Not too expensive, but much useful when you need it. Alright, so how it works: you put it in, you tighten this, and those legs start to spread. You'll put it in, start to tighten it. You might need to use 2 wrenches to get it wide open. We'll use 17mm and 10mm to get this inner piece more in, so we get more engagement with the bearing. I think good. Next, we have 2 options with this kit. We either use a slide hammer, and we'll try with that first, or we can actually attach a puller. We'll try with the slide hammer, see if that works. Doesn't want to move with the slide hammer. Alright, so I have the puller installed. I'll just try to pull it. Slipped. Alright, so I got one size up of the insert. So that took a little bit of hammering to get it in. But this one sits in way better. So hopefully we will get that bearing soon. Just push you aside a bit. Finally, that was tight. And it's still tight. So quite honestly, without good bearing puller, I don't know if you can do much. There's no way that we could have get this with the slide hammer. It's almost halfway. Oh, it's all the way out. Yeah, tough one. Next, we'll grab a rag and clean everything inside before we put the new bearing in. All nice and shiny. We check if there's no rust, damage, or some sort of not normal wear. This looks good. Okay, so we are ready to put the new bearing back in. And before we do that, we'll just put some fresh oil, Diff oil, that's full synthetic, using Castrol 75 W90. And also we will put some in here so our bearing slides in easily. It's a little bit easier. Okay. Don't want to fall it off. I'm using the 2-inch socket. Get this bearing in. It's almost the same size as bearing itself, so it works nice. So now we just want to make sure that it goes evenly in, even though it doesn't want to. That's better. And there is a stop for that bearing, so it won't go further than it's supposed to. And you can hear that sound. It means that we are at point. So here's the seal. And one thing I learned hard way, if there is no any rubber coating on the seal, just metal to metal, better to apply some RTV silicone, because I had few cases when it leaks. So we will wash this with the brake clean, apply RTV silicone, and push it in. Okay, so I use this blue Permatex gasket maker, RTV silicone in other words, and I applied really thin coat on the seal. Theoretically, you're not supposed to need it, but in my case, in actually a couple of cases, I had a leak, so I had to get a new seal. So I'd rather do it first time. Get it in. It's quite easy since there is nothing sticking out. You can just use any piece of flat board and hammer in. And from time to time, check if it's going even. And again, that noise, so it hit the stopping point. Awesome. Now we will actually come in here and just put a little bit more of oil. So it has comes in to start spinning when we put the new axle in. Okay, so here's the new axle, and the lug studs come separately, so you need to install those. If you have a press to push them in, perfect. If not, you can just use your lug nut spacer and just push or pull them in with the lug nut. Just using my 1/2-inch impact, and that seems to be working very well. Already have one installed. So now when the axle is assembled and cleaned with the brake clean, just apply some gear oil. So when we put it through the seal, through the bearing, nice and lubricated. And here, most important part, where it sits, the seal and in the bearing. Okay, let's get it in. Okay, so here it's important to go straight into the seal, not to damage it. Need to find the right spot in the diff. Sounds like we found it. And here we'll just take a little bit of pressure. Yeah. Alright, so seems like the axle is where it's supposed to be, and there is a spot where we want to put the C-clip in. I got the new C-clip too, this retaining clip, since we have too much play in the axle, so I will try to put it in, but I'm pretty sure that we will need to apply pressure on the axle in order to get it in. And indeed, it's not going in like that, so we'll need to push the axle in somehow. Alright, so if you can see, now that groove is basically in the middle, and we can even see splines on the right hand side. That was achieved by hammering on the axle. Just use a piece of wood and get the hammering. So now the C-clip goes in without any issues at all. We will try to spin it. Sure that we get into the pivot shaft in the right position. So now it would be nice if we can hammer the axle back while holding the C-clip back in so it locks in place. Let me see if I can reach the hammer. Okay, I have changed the plan a bit. So before we wanted this hole to be down so the gravity would pull the C-clip out. This time when we put it in, we want this hole to be actually pointing up a bit so the C-clip doesn't fall. So now it's set there, so I can go back and hit the axle back a bit so the C-clips locks inside. so you don't even need to hit it, you just push it gently. And now to show you, let's try to shine the light there. So now that the clip went in, there is no way that it will come out. So I have cleaned the pivot shaft, also cleaned the bolt and apply a new Loctite on it. Now I will just slide this pivot shaft in. A little bit too far. You have to put the bolt back in. And that's 8 mil. So definitely need to use wrench start, and then we potentially can move to the ratchet when we have a little bit more room. Let's see if we can fit in 1/4-inch ratchet. There's 8 mil socket. Going well behind. Doesn't want to resist the ratchet. Let's get it tight. All right, so next we will clean this area around all the way. We already started doing it a bit at the very beginning, but now we need to make sure that the new gasket that we put in sits well and we don't have any leaks. So let me clean this. Alright, so my diff cover is all nice clean, and there is the gasket that I will be using. If you don't have a gasket, that's perfectly fine. You just go with your RTV silicone around the holes all the way around. Make sure that you have continuous seal. Put it, make it hand tight, finger tight, leave it for a night, and then torque it in the morning. In my case, I have the gasket and I'll use the gasket. In terms of the bolts, cleaned all the bolts, applied some blue Loctite. One bolt that sits on top and holds the bracket is slightly longer than the others, so don't mix them. Okay, so I have my gasket and a couple of bolts going through the gasket and through the cover, so it stays in place. We'll get it finger tight for now. Now I'll just finger tight all other bolts. Okay, so now with the majority of the bolts finger tight, we can torque it to 30 foot-pounds in going crisscross pattern. And that's 13 mil socket, just a reminder. Okay, I finished doing this. Okay, the cover is tight, so now we'll remove a fill plug and fill it with fluid. So for the fluid we're using Castrol full synthetic 75W90. If you open up the fluid, make sure that this is clean. Clean the plug. We expect to put roughly 2.5 bottles of fluid into this diff. Alright, so we are ready to fill the diff with fluid. We are using Castrol 75W90 full synthetic, using a little battery powered, and by battery I mean car battery powered transfer pump. It's a really big helper, though you can use the syringe. I will leave a link in the description. It's a little bit cheaper. So we expect to put 2.5 bottles, so we will start the pump and fill the diff until we have some droplets coming out of the fill hole. So the fluid just starting to pump. So that will take a while. In the meantime, we will put the brakes and the wheel back on. So while our little pump is pumping with all its might, we will go ahead and put a coat of anti-seize on the new axle, so we don't have any issues removing the rotor later on. It was nice that the anti-seize was applied before, so it came off quite easily. And also you want to put around the center bore so the tire doesn't get stuck. So now we can put our rotor back on. So there is no adjustment holes, anyway it should work. And we managed to save those lock washers, so we put those back on. This is battery spot. Now we should be able to take the caliper bracket with the pads and put it back on. Okay, nice. So we don't have to touch the pads and all the hardware. So the caliper bolts, we will clean them and we'll apply some blue Loctite. Okay, while the second bottle is getting pumped into the diff, we will torque the caliper bracket bolts to 85 foot-pounds. The top one, as well as the bottom one. So now we will put the wheel back on. So I have applied the parking brake. Now we can torque the wheel to 100 foot-pounds. And reinstall the cover. Alright, so I have put 2.5 bottles of fluid, and you can see that they just started to come out. I have vehicle leveled, so I have raised the front a bit, and the rear is sitting on 4x4s. So at this point, I'll just pull out the hose. More fluid will come out. And now we can install the fill plug back in. We have it washed. Just trying to find a good angle. And after we put it in, we will torque it to 20 foot-pounds. Like extension would not work. I got my torque wrench on the plug, and I will torque it to 20 foot-pounds. So I think we will clean everything out, clean this spill, clean around the cover, and we'll check tomorrow morning if our gasket is holding well. Other than that, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching this video. Check links in the description to the video. And as always, just do it yourself. Take care.